Welcome into the Ryan Ripken Show, episode 51. And fellas, it honestly felt like we did a live show it felt like weeks ago. It felt like Monday didn't happen. But here it is. It's Thursday. We appreciate you tuning in. And let's go around it. Zach, actually, I know you're here, and we were just talking about this before we got on air.
Yeah, no, it does not feel like we just went live. I don't know what it was, but Monday, especially to me, did not exist. It just didn't feel real.
No, not at all. But the show goes on, and we keep moving, and we're moving on. And we got Kevin Ostreicher back in the seat. Kevin, how you feeling?
Yeah, weird week. I don't really know what day it is today. I know it's Thursday. It doesn't really feel like a Thursday. It feels like a Tuesday on it. I don't know. It might just be me, but it does not feel like Thursday.
Not at all. Not at all.
I've had my days mixed up for a lot of different reasons. And before we get into all that, though, behind the scenes, we got Brad and Rocco. There they are. Hey, guys. Hey, fellas. How we feeling this Thursday night?
Feeling all right. Feeling all right. Complaints at all, man.
I just I feel the same way. When I look back, on our like we have our background YouTube studio, whatever, see all of our videos, and I saw that we went live on Sunday, had their AFC pregame show, was incredible, our record stream, and it does feel like that happened last year, not 4 days ago.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
and I think that's exactly the feeling, right? And it's maybe it's just because there's been so many things going on in the city of Baltimore over this last, 48 hours specifically.
Roller coaster. Little roller coaster, Been a lot of ups and downs.
one of the crazy roller coasters in Baltimore sports history, honestly.
Yeah.
Yes,
that is very well put, Kevin. Very well put, Kevin.
Thank you.
Well, so for tonight's show, by the way, we want to just tell you a little bit what we got going on. We have ESPN's Mina Kimes coming on to talk about the Ravens situation. I know Zach is still very heartbroken given the circumstances of Mike McDonald leaving. A lot of Ravens fans are. I know a lot of people have questions also about the other news about the Baltimore Orioles. I have not lived under a rock. My phone has not stopped ringing for the last 48 hours. And I promise we will dive more into that topic as we go. But we do have to cover some other things before we do. And we have a lot of spicy topics because even though Mike McDonald was on the move and there were some other coaches that also have left personnel, there was another coaching vacancy that was up that Ravens fans were still worried that they were going to lose another guy. But that vacancy was filled today. If you're new to the channel, by the way, we'd appreciate it if you can like and subscribe. There are so many great things we got coming up with the show. But let's just dive into it so we can get ready for our guest upcoming here. And guys, the first thing we talked about the vacancy for head coaches, and Dan Quinn is now the Commanders head coach, going from the Dallas Cowboys to the Washington Commanders. And I think, Brad, you have a clip that was being discussed, I guess, on ESPN's First Take today. The news was being broken while this news was being announced. So we want to play that video for you and then react on the other side.
Do you like Dan Quinn as the hire as head coach of the Commanders?
No.
Ooh.
I do not. I'm not questioning his football qualifications as a head coach in Atlanta. He was decent, got him to the Super Bowl, lost a 28-3 lead with Kyle Shanahan as his offensive coordinator. The last time we saw him was in a playoff game where the Dallas Cowboys defense looked horrific. That was our last vision of him. Now, obviously, he's improved the defense by leaps and bounds over the years with the Dallas Cowboys. He had the personnel in place. But in moments where it really, really counted, they came up short. To me, if you're a division rival within the NFC East, and that's the backdrop for it, for that to be your hire, I mean, it's not a bad hire. I certainly don't mean to imply that. But I would have much rather preferred Dan Quinn remaining as the defensive coordinator in Dallas and going back to try and make amends for the horrific performance that they had put forth in the NFC wildcard playoff game against the Green Bay Packers. That's what I would have preferred personally. That's not what happened. Again, I'm not saying that the man can't coach. I'm not saying that the man doesn't deserve a job. I'm not even saying he doesn't deserve to be a head coach. But an NFC East rival, coming off what I saw them do, am I excited about this hire for the nation's capital? No.
Okay, before you guys weigh in.
So I'd like to make a comment. I think that's the most soft-spoken Stephen A. Smith has been.
Very quiet.
Very, very quiet. But
he was still, it was weird. It was like he was still so disappointed in his normal tone, but like he calmed down. Like he wasn't as angry as he was just disappointed.
Yeah, you know what? I think that was not the name I think most Commanders fans were expecting to hear. I think a lot of people, and Kevin, we talked about sources. I know you've heard from some sources as well that the Lions, Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, was a hot name that could be a part of it. And with him being out, could it be Mike McDonald, maybe Anthony Weaver? But Ben Johnson goes back. Mike McDonald's in Seattle. And Dan Quinn, Dan Quinn's a good head coach, but it just definitely was not the move you thought with everything changing in Washington that's what they were doing.
Yeah, I guess the word I would probably use here is uninspiring to me. I agree with Stephen A. I don't think it's a bad hire, but in terms of the direction of the Washington franchise, you bring in new ownership, you hire Adam Peters, who was widely respected throughout the league. The name that everybody keeps coming back to is, you're right, Ben Johnson stays in Detroit, Bobby Slowick stays in Houston, Mike McDonald goes to Seattle, and you're thinking, well, what other head coaches are out there? Is there a name, maybe a guy who's won a Super Bowl or two that, maybe could have fit? Yeah, or just a couple that could fit in there. And I think
two guys that won a Super Bowl.
Literally. Yeah. And we even talked about how I called them the big three of Belichick, Vrabel, and Pete Carroll. None of those guys are going to have a head coaching opportunity this season. And not that Dan Quinn isn't qualified, but to me, I just feel like there were better options out there. Plus, this is the year you got to draft a quarterback for the Commanders. And do you want the guy for that to be Dan Quinn, to have that quarterback grow alongside? I don't think it's a bad thing, but I just felt like there are better options out there.
I think both of you put it perfectly. Is it a bad hire? No, I think Dan Quinn is a very good football coach. We've seen him take the Falcons to a Super Bowl. What happened in the second half? That happened. I mean, there's nothing to get past that. He blew that massive lead, and obviously there are different reasons for Commanders fans to be disappointed. And I do think one of them is, Seattle, they're getting their coach, even though the Ravens didn't win, they're getting their head coach, a 36-year-old defensive coordinator who just shut out Patrick Mahomes in the second half of the AFC Championship. And then as the Commanders, you were thinking you were getting this big, young splash hire of a Ben Johnson or Mike McDonald. And then you get the guy who was one of your rivals and that you were probably cheering against his defense while they gave up 40 points in the playoffs. So it's got to be a weird, bittersweet, it's a good veteran coach, but not probably the veteran coach they wanted. No,
it definitely was not, especially the enthusiasm was going around. It just felt like they were going to go younger. That's just how it felt. It was the new innovation. You got the pick, you got the cap space. Brad, I think you have a quick take on this right now.
Yeah, to piggyback a little bit on what Zach said, this would be like Mike McDonald going to be a head coach of the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. And so that would be insane. But my real take is this. Teams get rid of coaches and hire new coaches to upgrade them. And it just feels like Dan Quinn isn't an upgrade to Ron Rivera. It doesn't feel like the Titans upgraded in Nashville. It doesn't feel like Atlanta upgraded their head coaching spot either. Now, I could be totally wrong, but some of these head coaching hires just seem really underwhelming, and they don't feel like upgrades, like a Bill Belichick would have been, or a Mike Vrabel would have been. I just don't really understand. I understand going to the younger route, and that's worked with some other teams. Obviously, the Rams have. That feels like an outlier to me. I don't think that that's just the answer. I think that there are some really good experienced coaches out there, and I'm just absolutely shocked and blown away that Mike Vrabel does not have a job in the NFL right now. Just blows my mind.
Yeah, Vrabel and Belichick nowhere to be found. And that's what kind of the reality is of the situation. And look, Dan Quinn has a persona around him. If you hear players talk about him, they love him. In Atlanta, he did a great job. Unfortunately, the Super Bowl was that one moment.
Yeah.
And even for Kyle Shanahan, it was Kyle Shanahan, Dan Quinn. There was that one moment down the stretch, and we all know a 28-3, the comeback. But overall, he was a steady, stable head coach. Unfortunately, the last year or so there, the wheels fell off. But Rock, I know in this area, this is something that Commanders fans, people in general in the Baltimore, Washington, DC, DMV region down there, this is something this is an exciting time, but I think Kevin put it in a good way. I think this is something where it's not going to move the needle right now, and they're going to have to see extreme progression in order to feel better about it?
Yeah. You got me up there, Rep.
Oh, yeah,
There we
get
go.
up there.
There we go. I think in this, like you look at the Commanders and what they lacked in last season, especially. I mean, offensively, they weren't great, but defensively, they ranked dead last in a handful of categories from total yards to points allowed. And the Cowboys, Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys, they were top 5 in many of those stats. And I know you have different personnel, different people on that side of the ball, but that's what I feel like with this hire. The Commanders are hoping that he can bring a defensive presence back to DC, back to the Commanders, and that franchise, honestly. And so for Dan Quinn, I don't think this is, something that moves the needle for this fan base, but I do look at it as a fresh start. Ron Rivera seemed like a great guy. He took them to the postseason once, and from there on out, it was just kind of a dumpster fire for that franchise overall. So in doing this, new ownership, new head coach, the hope in the area is that Dan Quinn can bring them back to some sort of relevancy and be competitive in the NFC East, especially again. If that happens, it remains to be seen. But he does know the Cowboys better than most people know the Cowboys right now, so that's a plus.
There's no doubt about that, and he knows the good and bad out there in Dallas. But I see a lot of comments about people talking about the Commanders where some are like, I don't know how I feel about it, or they're hoping for the best. And by the way, we're talking Commanders here. We're going to be talking with Mina Kimes coming up here at 6:30, talking a little bit more about the Ravens. But this is just a move that I felt with the Commanders. It's a prime spot, and I saw a comment here about, does this mean Eric Bieniemy stays with Quinn? And
will be interesting.
It's going to be interesting because here's the thing, and this is why I thought they really wanted more of a young coach, or the offensive coordinator hire here is going to be more important than probably any other position that they hire, because of the fact if you do go quarterback at 2, you have all the cap space. There isn't a better chance to change the narrative for the Washington Commanders than right now. But you can also set back or at least diminish hope if you don't nail this and do it right. So pressure's on Dan Quinn, but I will say the one thing I do like about it, he has experience, and that does matter, but it's going to be, is that experience going to help you take it to the next level? Because I thought Ron Rivera, when he came in, Brad, I know you mentioned it, he was in there to just try to put out the fire and try to change the narrative of the Commanders were in such hot water. Now it's about, all right, all that's behind us. This next chapter of Commanders football, what is that going to be like? And we are going to find out. We are going to find out sooner than later, especially in this first year. But you know what we are finding out here, guys? Let's switch to the AFC and the other team that's right down the highway, or the Parkway. By the way, Baltimore Washington Parkway.
Oh my God.
Ryan's favorite place.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan is not a big fan of the Parkway. We only hear about it once, twice, 3 times a day.
I think it's things you can count on when you talk to Ryan on days we do the show: death, taxes, and Ryan's going to complain about traffic on the Baltimore Washington Parkway. But let's talk about the team in Baltimore. We're going to talk more about stuff with Mike McDonald, but the news recently is that Denard Wilson, Ravens defensive back coach, is now heading to Tennessee to be the defensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans. And again, it's good for him, but it's also like, there goes another one, Zach.
Yeah, that was kind of, I don't want to say out of nowhere, because he had gotten a lot of looks and interviews with people, but it did kind of like, the Ravens lose Mike McDonald, and it was like, okay, now they're going to look at the internal candidates. You have Wilson, you have Orr, you have Weaver. And then before really anyone can even process, okay, who of the 3 is the best, Wilson's gone. The Titans were like, no, we're taking him. So then it almost kind of sent Ravens Twitter into more of a panic, because they were like, we're not keeping any of them. They thought Orr was going to the Seahawks. They thought Weaver was getting the head coaching job in Washington. And it really did just send panic into Baltimore. You would have thought the whole roster was getting taken.
Yeah, I mean,
it does feel like that. I won't lie.
Well, in some ways, it felt like the Ravens lost, and in the process, it's like we haven't even had a chance to process all of this. It's just, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone.
Yeah.
Who's left? But to be fair, though, this is what coaches, Kevin, like, this is what they're aspiring to be, and Harbaugh and everyone in the Ravens are going to wish them well. that this is just the reality of the business. And quite frankly, it could be a good opportunity, especially with Tennessee trying to start a new chapter themselves.
Well, right. And I think it's the reality of also of being a well-run franchise that has the history that Baltimore has, where I think, with the way that Baltimore is perceived across the league and obviously the way their defense played this year, this was going to happen in some way, shape, or form. Now, I know people were holding out hope that maybe McDonald could stay, but some coaches were going to go. And Denard Wilson had the #1 pass defense in the league last year with the Eagles. He comes to Baltimore after Darius Slay has openly said it should have been Denard Wilson as defensive coordinator instead of Sean Desai, and then Matt Patricia, which I'm sure Slay was thrilled about considering Detroit. Yeah. And then it was inevitable that I think Wilson was going to get an opportunity, and he got a lot of interviews. I think he got the Rams, the Packers, the Titans. There was one more, I think the Giants for a defensive coordinator opening. So this is why I think we're kind of shifting to McDonald and Orr. The Ravens had to move really quickly with this because their coaching staff is getting picked apart here and picked apart there. And if they had because with Todd Monken, it was a pretty long search and they were trying to figure out who their next guy was. But for this one, who's to say that if they don't make a move here or doesn't follow, or McDonald, he poaches this guy here and this guy there. And I think with this coaching staff, I know I've gotten a bunch of messages about this on social media, but we could be looking back on this Ravens 2023 coaching staff. You know that Washington graphic from, 2013, 2014 of Slowick and McVay and McDaniel and all those guys, Shanahan.
Yeah. Anyone who's everybody was on that or is on that coaching
we could be looking back at the Ravens defensive staff picture from 2023 in 5 or 10 years and say, man, crazy how much they had there and crazy they didn't win a Super Bowl that year.
I mean, it's like the early 2000 Ravens defensive coaching staffs. We would have,
Marvin Lewis and all those guys.
Yeah, Jack Del Rio, Rex Ryan, all those guys that went on to become these big head coaches and coach in the league for so long. It very well could be another one of those situations.
Well, thank you for bringing that conversation and thought into my mind, guys. Kevin, thanks. I'm trying
sorry.
I'm still I'm trying to get my energy level even up more. And I will, especially when our guest Mina Kimes comes on to talk a little bit more about the situation here in Baltimore. And if you're new to the channel, everyone, hit that like and subscribe button. We do live shows Monday and Thursday, and we do special shows. We did the special for the AFC Championship game. Unfortunately, really tough day for Ravens fans, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles and you move on. Moving on, though, real quick then, because as great as of an opportunity is for Denard Wilson, guess who the Ravens kept, everyone? Guess who's staying in Baltimore?
Zack Orr, baby.
Zack Orr, and it is Zack Orr's time.
Bollinger.
Yeah, I'm staying. It was a big day for Zach, honestly.
It was
a massive day. We got promoted. Just another Zach in a position of power. Can't be upset about that. We just take one day at a time.
That is not where we're going with this.
Oh,
so
okay.
You know what we're going to do is we're going to show you the passion that Zack Orr has and why, and we're going to explain a little bit more. And then we come back from the video. Rocco, I want you to break down a little bit of how this all kind of is shaping up. I mean, that guy loves being in it. He's a former player, and everyone's talked about Mike McDonald loves him. Like everyone's talked about how respected he is, and Ravens fans were worried he was going too. Like that was a guy that they were really worried about. But Zack Orr is now taking over, and this is an extremely exciting opportunity for him, especially with the players that the Ravens still do have. We know they have a lot of free agents, but they still have a very talented defense.
Yeah, and I think this is, I wouldn't say a seamless transition, but it's about as seamless as I feel like you're going to get from Mike McDonald, as good as he was, drawing up plays, like dialing it up and, putting guys in position to be successful on the field with Kyle Hamilton, with Roquan Smith, to now going to Zack Orr, who was the inside linebackers coach, who many of these guys really love, the Patrick Queens, the Roquan Smiths. I mean, they have his seal of approval, or their seal of approval is what I mean. And you saw Patrick Queen respond on Instagram to like when they got hired. It's like, it's his time, like with the 100 emoji. Like these guys are fired up. Zack Orr, he's got a really cool story from being an undrafted free agent, signing with Baltimore, playing 3 seasons here, and then a neck injury forced him to retire. And then shortly after, I believe it was 2017, he joined the Ravens staff as a defensive analyst, went to Jacksonville for a season, came back. He's been the inside linebackers coach for the last 2 seasons, and now he gets promoted. I feel like the Ravens, we all had to wait and see what was going to happen with the Commanders with that last head coaching position. And Anthony Weaver, we know, was up for that. He was known to be a finalist according to multiple reports. So it was a matter of, okay, who are the Ravens going to go with? Are they going to go with internal or are they going to go with external? And many thought it was going to be an internal hire, internal promotion, just because like that's the Raven way. While Mike Macdonald wasn't technically an internal promotion, like he was a Harbaugh disciple. He spent time with the Ravens. Then he went to Michigan. Then he came back as a defensive coordinator. So I think this is a great hire. Zack Orr's 31 years old, a year older than us, Rip. So it's crazy. Brad, I think he's younger than you. You're an old man. So, I mean,
He is.
pretty crazy, man, to be 31 years old, to be a defensive coordinator. Close to these guys in age. You can relate to them. You played the position as well. So fantastic hire, I believe. And I think Zack Orr is going to do a great job in Baltimore in the foreseeable future. But this is a guy that could very well be getting head coaching. If he succeeds here, he could
This
be
is not
a name.
the time, Rock.
I'm just saying, Zach, he
Why?
could be a name down the line.
He hasn't even been our defensive
Baltimore.
coordinator yet, and Rocco's trying to get him to other teams. We just got another young, fun defensive coordinator.
With
behind
success,
Zach Orr has already been broken.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
sorry.
He's been the defensive coordinator for what?
5
hours. 5 hours, and Rocco's trying to get him a head coaching.
Well,
All right,
like
the
Merriman
campaign is out there.
Yeah,
already.
Merriman quoted your tweet with Denard Wilson and said he'll be a head coach in 3 years. So how is that any different from what I'm saying about
he
Zach Orr?
ain't back with us. He's not back with us.
Yeah,
That doesn't break my heart. That's
take the Ravens
Tennessee.
hat off for now and be.
Isn't it fun? Aren't we having fun here? I think
I'm getting fired up.
how about a little fun topic here for a second? Who would do more push-ups, Zack Orr or Zach Bollinger?
Oh,
It's a
probably
great
Zack
question.
Orr. Definitely Zack Orr, without a doubt.
You said
Zack Orr.
probably? Oh, 1,000% Zach Orr.
Yeah, obviously,
hold on.
Rocco. Okay,
Your
give me a
form's
little
terrible.
bit of.
You know what though? I bet you
Okay.
probably
Wow.
could do. Feel like you probably could do more push-ups than Nick Moore.
Probably.
Wow.
Well, actually, just his Achilles he could on one leg probably did more than me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Okay. We're just adding into Nick's getting called out without even being here, by the way. Nick, we have another thing for you to do besides the Oklahoma drill. But in general, the reason why also was Zack Orr with his age, for people that, if they forgot, Zack Orr had to cut his career short, right? And it was a promising start to his career.
It's an all-pro in year 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's my point, is that the passion hasn't gone away for Zack. And this is his way, especially when you were told for your health and for you're moving forward in your life. This is the decision you had to make, but you can see how much he cares about this game. You can see how much the players love and respect him. And if you have that respect from your peers, I think it's only ultimately going to help. And the Ravens do find a way to have another person come in and have success. They've done it for years. I know it stings. Mike Macdonald's gone. It felt like that was a guy. It was one of the most fan favorite coordinators that I could remember in a while here in Baltimore. Right. So, and Kevin, I think you got one more thing you comment on.
Yeah, I just as you were talking, Ryan, I kind of thought about this trajectory for both Macdonald and Zack Orr. You know, Macdonald comes in the Ravens organization. He's there for a while. He goes to Michigan for a year. He comes back and establishes himself. And while it's not the exact same thing with Zack Orr, he comes in the Ravens organization. He spends some time there. He goes to Jacksonville for a year, and then he comes back. And while he didn't quite get the defensive coordinator job right off the bat, because it was Macdonald's, kind of similar. And you kind of talk about what Macdonald was. He was a young up-and-coming he is, but in Baltimore, a young up-and-coming defensive mind. He has, his players ready to go to war for him. He has, the ear of his players and has that influence, the motivation factor, the energy factor. They're not the exact same person, obviously, but I think if you're looking at prototype, I mean, Mike Macdonald and Zack Orr, they went with a similar hire here. And the most important part to me is you keep the system. The system works so well. And while Mike Macdonald obviously is a loss, I'm not trying to sugarcoat that or anything. The fact they were able to keep the system and the guys. So again, Mike Macdonald was essentially, he brought Zack Orr back from Jacksonville. That was Mike Macdonald's guy. So it's not great Macdonald left, but I think in terms of, you see Wilson leave the same day as Macdonald. There are the reports about maybe Orr's going to follow Macdonald to Seattle. This, I think you got to be pretty excited about if you're a Ravens fan, and there's potential here for this to work out for a long time.
I agree. And you know what, talking about a guy that the ties, and everyone was saying Macdonald, they thought, oh, he's going to be his successor and all this. By the way, Harbaugh, he's staying. We're going to have a different conversation about that. The stability that has been in Baltimore has been tremendous. But Zack Orr being a former player, and we've seen the trend of former players staying with your team and having you kind of build that maybe legacy. Maybe Zack Orr is the guy that everyone's overlooking. So it's a tremendous opportunity for him. I can't wait to see it. I know that Baltimore can't wait, but they also are getting over I really think Baltimore's been down here, up here, and I don't even know to left, right, you name it. It's just they've been everywhere, to say the least.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been, yeah, Rocco, we don't need to start a campaign to get Zack Orr out of here just yet, please. I don't have it in my heart to do it. But if he does his job, he's going to have some opportunities.
Saying that. I was not saying campaigning to get Zack Orr a head coaching job right now. I'm just saying if he's successful, just keep an eye out going forward.
Well, and this also is a trend for Ravens and who they've hired as their defensive coordinator with the linebackers. And you hire Martindale, who was the linebackers coach for him. And then you go and Mike McDonald, he was the linebackers coach. And now Zack Orr is the linebackers coach. So it's a trend for Baltimore. They see the success. And I don't know. I think everything considered with McDonald leaving and how big of a loss that is, you still got to be excited about Zack Orr in Baltimore.
I mean, you have to be excited about him. And for people, if you talk to people about Zack Orr around the city, you're hearing a lot of the same things. And I know we're saying it's the same message, but you want passion. You want a guy that has a lot of pride in the organization, and Zack Orr has that. And that is something that you want. And for people here in Maryland, there's a lot of Maryland pride. I got the damn sign behind me right now, right? People care about the Baltimore sports teams. And Zack Orr, again, is going to have a great chance to then be the next in line to have the opportunity to, prove to himself that he can be another, hopefully in line of great coordinators that come through Baltimore. So if you guys are tuning in, appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. For those that have not noticed, I have not really slept over the last kind of 48 hours. We can talk about that later on. But what we do want to talk about is the reason why we kind of push this out is a person that is familiar and also broke Zach's heart earlier.
I'm just so sad. I can't believe he's gone still.
Okay, well, without further ado, if she's all right with it, let's bring out ESPN's Mina Kimes, Brad.
Hey.
Mina, how are you doing?
Hey.
Welcome,
What's up,
Mina.
guys? Hello. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you for taking the time. I know you have a lot going on consistently, but Baltimore's had a wave of emotions here, Mina, from the football side, the Ravens losing the AFC Championship game. Then there was news that the Orioles are selling, so people are.
Any,
Yeah, you know something about that? You know something about that, Ryan?
any,
I might know a guy, and I can talk to him about that later. Maybe we'll bring him on for it as well. But Mina, we know you're a big baseball person. Maybe in the future we can talk baseball with you. I know with the Seattle Mariners. And by the way, to throw a strike on the first pitch was dynamite, by the way. I can't tell you how many of my former teammates couldn't even do that to throw the ball to first base. I was a first baseman. But the main reason we wanted to bring you on is because you, the Seattle Seahawks, and Mike McDonald broke Zach's heart.
Yeah, I mean, I got the notification on Twitter that Mike McDonald was going to Seattle. So it was like, there was already the knife in my heart, Mina. And then I get on, and the first tweet I see at the top of my feed is you just celebrating. And it was just like, it was just twisting the knife. So thank you for joining the show. As somebody who you've even said that not even just from remaining candidates from the beginning, Mike McDonald was someone you wanted to see in Seattle. What impressed you about Mike McDonald so much with his schemes? And what, he is a 36-year-old youngest head coach in the league. He's going to be calling his own defensive plays. What should expectations be for the Seahawks under him next year?
Yeah. First, I'm sorry.
You're not sorry, and that's okay. I wouldn't be
sorry.
sorry either if I got Mike McDonald.
Well,
as my head
I'm
coach.
sorry about the Ravens because I absolutely loved watching this team. I have been such a fan of Lamar Jackson's game going back to before the draft. I was so glad he landed in Baltimore. So I feel like I have a lot of Ravens fans listeners to my podcast, the Mina Kimes Show, and I feel for you guys. I don't know. It was just a brutal loss for a number of reasons. And then, of course, to come off of that and then lose your defensive coordinator, especially since the defense played well in that game. It's got to sting.
Oh, shut out Patrick Mahomes in the second half. And then
so good. Yeah.
rides off in the sunset.
And I guess that's a good starting point to talk about why I was so impressed by Coach McDonald over the last couple of years. because, first of all, this is why I wanted him for Seattle. The Seahawks have struggled in recent years to stop the sort of offenses that Mike Macdonald and the Ravens defense have been so excellent at playing against, which is this Shanahan tree offenses. The Niners, notably this year, and there's these offenses. They're all different in different ways, but they share DNA. The Dolphins to some degree, the Texans twice, even the Lions. There's some shared. They have some things in common with them. The Rams are the exception, but I'm writing that one off because Matt Stafford blacked out in that game. I don't think that was honestly my favorite.
Oh my God.
My favorite game of the season from a quarterbacking perspective. It was just dynamite.
Yeah.
So watching what you guys did against those defenses, how well coached you are, it's interesting because we talk a lot on the show I'm on NFL Live about the Ravens simulated pressures this season. Had a lot of really fun conversations about that. They're not the only defense in the NFL that, it relies heavily on sims. In fact, the Seahawks defense really tried to use that as well as part of their pressure package because they weren't, a dominant 4-man rush team either. But it's one thing to say, well, let's show blitz and drop into coverage. And it's another to execute it to perfection the way the Ravens did. When you watch them, what struck me was just how well coached they were in terms of knowing their assignments, marrying pressure and coverage. And then, just the tackling, the physicality with which the defense played with. I think all of those things are why they were so good at playing those offenses, in addition to the incredible talent you had up the spine of the defense, which remains. We'll see what happens with Madubuike and Queen, but watch we'll take
Maybe
Queen too.
Future Seahawk.
I know.
We'll
see what happens.
I know.
You're
pushing the
I
agenda
know.
already.
I know. I hate it, but
Could be.
Roquan was I think I had him. Yeah, I did have him in my top 3 for Defensive Player of the Year, which he didn't even make the top 5, but such a special player.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
appreciate
Special
that a lot.
player. You still have, and you got Kyle Hamilton. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my
And
guy.
I guess moving on to the Ravens defense, Zack Orr steps up as defense coordinator. There was a little rumor that he might be going with Mike Macdonald to Seattle. Can you talk a little bit about, Zack Orr kind of was Mike Macdonald's right-hand man the past 2 years. What should Ravens fans be, the world is ending? I don't think so. I think should they expect little drop-off with Zack Orr there? Because I think the intensity and the mindset is still going to be there in the defense.
I think, yeah. I mean, you never know when position coaches are elevated, what they do, what they bring to the table. You can only evaluate them based on the play of the positions they coach. Obviously, linebacker has been incredible strength in Baltimore, not just historically, but this season. I look at Queen's development in particular.
Yeah.
Last season, after you guys traded for Roquan, I was really impressed by Queen's play, and it looked to me that having Roquan as the quarterback of the defense, now he's free to fly around, blitz, make plays, that kind of thing. But I would say this year he took yet another leap mentally in terms of some of the things he did in coverage, diagnosing the quarterback intentions, and again, you look at the linebackers coaching, you say, well, god damn, that worked out, So we'll see what happens with Trenton Simpson, for example, who sits behind Roquan. But so if the job of the defensive coordinator or coaching in general is to put players in position to succeed, to develop them, it seems that he has had success there. I think the challenge is going to be just something that Macdonald did really well, which was game planning. The Niners game in particular, that the tape of the defense there and how they played some of San Francisco's specific pass concepts really showed, this guy really, he has a beat on what they want to do on offense. So I think that's going to be the challenge for Coach Orr going forward, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with him is going to be, can he adjust as well as Mike Macdonald? Because the biggest thing that impressed me personally about Mike Macdonald was, even if it seemed like in the first half the offense had an upper hand, the second it got to the second half and he had time to look over it, he found a way to shut it down. So that's going to be the biggest thing, is can Zack Orr have those same in-game adjustments as him?
Well,
but
they're hoping.
The players make the system. So I just want to, as excited as I am for Coach Macdonald, he's not bringing Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton with him. And those are
don't put that in the air.
Yeah, that's the heartbeat. And really the 3 safeties, I mean, goddamn, played so well together. Geno Stone was a player who just blew me away this year with some of the stuff he did. So the spine remains the spine, and the defense will still be extremely good because of it. But yeah, it is challenging to replicate. That's for sure.
Well, so I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, the players are the ones that have to go out there and play. And obviously, though, coaching does matter and stability and organizations matter, right? And I just to wrap up here, because then we'll get you out. But for the Ravens, it felt like as soon as the Ravens lost, it felt, all right, this coach is gone. This coach is gone. Personnel here, personnel there. And Ravens fans are left scratching their head of going, what the hell happened? But I'm glad you mentioned the Ravens still have a very talented roster. I just wanted you to give some positive thoughts of, despite the fact that it feels like the world is ending on the football side in Baltimore, why the Ravens should be and Ravens fans should be very hopeful that this next season, the Ravens can still get back to the AFC Championship with John Harbaugh as the coach and Lamar Jackson as their quarterback and the other pieces that you mentioned.
Yeah, well, so, the defensive stars remain. Offensively, a few things. I'm sure you guys shared some of this, very disappointed by the game plan, the offensive game plan in the play. I don't think that's a bold or unique take. However, I will say, just thinking back over the course of the season, Todd Monken's offense, and then, sort of the changes in personnel, pivoting to being more of an 11 personnel team, some of the stuff they did with the wide receivers, they got better as the year went along until the very end. But that offense, you saw them kind of figuring it out because it was such a dramatic change from the previous offense. And there's reason to believe that they can continue building on that next season. Zay Flowers was fantastic, and that was year one. He's going to be even better next year. Isaiah Likely, a really talented young tight end, going to be even better next year. I mean, Mark Andrews came back, he was a little hurt, but think about, him and Likely on the field at the same time. On the offense, I believe the guards are free agents, right, off the top of my head.
Yes.
And then Edwards, that's not dramatic. You can address that. This offensive line played really well. So it's not like you're losing a lot of talent on that side of the ball. And while I know I was disappointed in the final game, it's important to remember with Lamar Jackson, he's still a young quarterback. What is he, like 27 or something?
Just turned 27.
Dude, he has gotten better and better and better. And there's no reason he won't get even better next year, especially, by the way, building off of a season that he ended the year healthy. He has a full offseason right now, which is not something that's been the case with him, at several points in his career. An offseason to work with Todd Monken, to build on what they did together. So I'm really excited to see him in this offense next year. I'll be extremely high on them going into the season, even with some of the turnover.
Well, we appreciate that because, again, Baltimore is teetering right now. Again, the Orioles news is getting everyone excited, but it's still a football town, obviously, and people care about the Ravens. And when Lamar Jackson plays, the Ravens, I know quarterback wins are not a stat. I'm well aware. We all know, but it is true that the Ravens, it's no secret when Lamar Jackson plays, this team is a way different team. And more times than not, they win than they do lose. Mina, before you get out of here, which you appreciate, thank you. For everyone that's tuning in, Mina Kimes with ESPN, but the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny. I wanted to emphasize the Lenny part.
Yes.
And where can we find all of that so everyone can tune into more of your content? Obviously, we see you all over ESPN.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, if you're a Ravens fan, we talk about the Ravens a lot. I've actually received some complaints that I talk about the Ravens too much. But yeah, the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny's football podcast. You can listen to it wherever you get your pods or check it out on YouTube. Or now, this week, it debuted on ESPN 2. So you can check it out on Thursdays on ESPN 2. But YouTube, podcasts, wherever you get your pods. Thank you for having me. I felt bad, with celebrating the dancing on your grave with the Mike McDonald departure.
Yeah, it's okay.
But
maybe it's for the best. Maybe Zack Orr, although right before you got on, one of our guys already said Zack Orr should be a head coach after next year. So he's already trying to get rid of him. So it's okay. We'll recover. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mina. You have a great rest of your night. Mina Kimes, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Kevin, you're still clapping.
Yeah.
After you catch me not clapping, I'm clapping all the way through. You can't catch me again.
First of all, did I say that Zack Orr was going to be a head coach after next season, or did you completely
you started the campaign?
1,000%.
Now Mina
and I said 4 years down the line that could be a potential.
Well, see, we have good campaigns
you're in
we
your
run
feelings
here
right now, man.
like Nick Moore
I
to the
am.
Pro Bowl. That's a good campaign. Kevin Zeitler did make the Pro Bowl, by the way. After the whole, so congratulations
Hell
to,
yeah,
to Kevin
Kevin.
Zeitler. But this campaign, Rocco, we're not in.
We're not
in
supporting.
on. You're on your own.
I do actually want to.
I'm not pushing this guy to be a head coach right now. Good Lord.
We should.
I do want to real quick with what Kevin just said. Kevin Zeitler did finally make, although it is probably in the worst way that he would have wanted it to happen by replacing Joe Tooney, because Tooney's going to the Super Bowl. Kevin Zeitler, Pro Bowl guard. You can never take it away from him again. He finally gets his flowers. Although even his wife said very bittersweet, they'll take it. First Pro Bowl after what, 12 years now?
Around that.
Yeah. It's
This is not
too
true.
many.
What Andy's saying. It's just not what I'm doing. It's not what I'm doing.
The campaign is Rocco wants Zack Orr to be a coach tomorrow, head coach tomorrow. But in all seriousness, guys, that was I don't know about you guys. That was amazing.
Oh, that was great. That was great.
Zach,
Mina was awesome.
Yeah, Zach, thank you for being in your feelings about it and sparking the conversation.
Who would have thought Mina Kimes dancing on my grave as I'm sad about Mike McDonald would lead to her being on the pod? So I guess it was worth it. Mike McDonald, it's like the little domino effect. It's like Mike McDonald shutting out Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship led to Mina Kimes on the Ryan Ripken Show.
And you know what? I mean, everyone sees her on there, but I love that she let loose a little bit more too. Let her feelings be known, but also you can see she's got so much respect for the Ravens. She knows, and that thing I love is she knows her shit. Like that's why it was such a awesome conversation. We hope the best for the Seahawks. Like I do hope Mike McDonald and all the coaches that go elsewhere, you hope they do well, but you hope the Ravens continue to do well. So,
and real quick, I don't think we really made it clear enough. When it's the Mina Kimes show featuring Lenny is her dog,
which makes
it's
a amazing dog.
Not only is he a physical dog, but he is a dog. So he has great takes.
Certainly does. And before we move on here for a second, well, where am I going with this? Sorry, I'm. If you guys can see, I'm still a little bit frazzled here from a lot of things. But Brad, can you explain? I think you had a poll out, and I meant to mention this when Mina was on or before that. You had a poll out for everyone that was involving the Ravens.
Yeah, it was just a simple, looking forward to next year. Just to I was really wanting to gauge where everybody was on how they felt about next year's Ravens. And so I just said the Ravens will be blank next year. And I put a couple of records on here. I put 15-2, 5-12, 9-8, 7-10. And it's an interesting split because 51% of our audience said that the Ravens are going to be 15-2.
Yep.
Hardly anybody said 5-12, and 8% said 7-10. The other split that's really close is 9-8. So there's a large part of our audience that isn't so high on the Ravens next year and kind of expecting them to be a subpar or 500 type team. So it's very interesting. It's either you are still believing the Ravens are going to be in that number one seed spot or close to it, or you're like they're going to be in the middle of the pack, not anywhere near what we had this year. And I thought it was interesting, Ryan, what Mina was saying as far as the personnel within the Ravens, right? They're obviously there's a lot of free agents out there, but we talked about this the other day that the Ravens are the second youngest team in the league, meaning that there's still a lot of players that are under contract that are super talented. Obviously, Kyle Hamilton comes to mind, Geno Stone, a couple of the other guys that are still there that are super talented. We're going to be fine. Eric DeCosta worked his ass off this season. I don't think that that's just going to stop. So
I agree.
It's going to make things happen. I'm super pumped for it.
Yeah. And for me, with this poll, in terms of the results and kind of where people expect Baltimore to be next year, I think that it's almost everything went so well for the Ravens. Obviously not the championship game, but everything, lined up really well for them. And everybody thought they had the team where, relatively considering they were healthy, they lost 3-ish key contributors for the season, Dobbins and Mitchell and Ajabo, but they lost guys for a month or 3 weeks or 2 months here. But then they were dominant on defense. The offense found their stride. And I think that when you look to next year, I think people are expecting just a lot of that to fall off when it's not guaranteed to fall off. I think people are almost like overcorrecting a little bit, where the Ravens, I think, will be okay. Now, health can play a factor, right? New players, depending on how much of the system they keep from McDonald, which I think will be all of it because it's Zack Orr. But I think that there's just all of this stuff about, well, now Matabike's a free agent and Queen's a free agent and Stone's a free agent and McDonald's gone and Wilson is gone. The Ravens still have the core. I mean, Mina talked about it with Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton, and they still have, and plus, I mean, the big fish here, Lamar Jackson. If you have Lamar Jackson, you have a chance. Obviously, they got to get over the hump. I'm not excusing what happened in the AFC Championship game because they have to take that next step because you don't play for the regular season success we've seen. You play for the playoffs, play for a Super Bowl. But I do think that if you're, right around, the Ravens are going to be 500 or right around 500, I think there could be situations where that happens, but I personally have a little bit more confidence in that myself.
Yeah, Brad, everyone's getting on you right now for not having an 11-6 option.
I know.
A lot of people, and you know what? Let Brad know. 11-6.
Can I just say this real quick? This is probably every time they put up the Lamar Jackson is what is it up to 20-1 now against
the Daniel Jones?
Yeah,
oh
the fact that it's Daniel Jones is so funny to me.
Fun.
I think that I kind of hope Lamar never loses again to the NFC and like forever.
I need that.
It's just like that. Lamar like 43-1 against the NFC, and it's like Daniel Jones forever.
Those are my two favorites. Well, it's the Daniel Jones one, and then the Roquan Smith is 26. Those are my two. And the thing I'm going to miss most about the in-season polls, Brad, is that we're never going to get the Patrick Ricard touchdown.
I know.
I'm so sad. That's what I'm personally sad about.
Is he going to score it in the Pro Bowl? Wait, he's not even.
No, Ingold made it over him.
Well, whoa, maybe, but they're both really good players. The Ravens are gonna be fine, everyone. It's what?
I gotta stop you now because you're just not paying attention. You gotta move the mic.
I am. Where do you want me to move it? I move it down.
I said
here,
you
move it up here.
You gotta point it at you. You gotta point it at your face. It's not pointing at you.
Where do you want me to point it?
He warned you. He warned you in the.
I did. But I'm saying where else is this pointed?
This is why you tune into the Ryan Ripken Show.
Yes, because you were like talking. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Zach.
Is this better now?
Yes.
Are we rolling now, Kenneth?
Are we going to? Hey guys,
if you can name that movie quote, by the way.
Are we going to talk about Orioles, or is Paul going to lose it in the chat for the millionth time on us?
He might. But by the way, hey, Jason, everyone. Thank
Jason.
You. Thank you.
Jason was in my chat earlier today. Jason's my man.
Well, thank you, Jason, for it.
And make him choose.
What you said, we are good without Mike McDonald before, during, and after. We've talked about the Ravens have done a tremendous job of being able to bring in someone else to step up.
He just got too old. He was 36, so the Ravens wanted to go with the youth movement and brought in 31-year-old Zack Orr.
And then they're going to bring in, Zach Bollinger is the next one. We'll just go younger. And
I want some team to hire like a 25-year-old. Like it's going to happen eventually. It'll happen and it's going to be like some Mike McDaniel type, like a real like analytical, like not like stat nerd, but like analytics guy. I could see it happening. Like some 26-year-old.
Right.
Paul, that's
maybe
fair.
It's me.
We got you, Paul. We got you. We're definitely going to talk.
To be fair, you're right. No one roots for the Orioles in Baltimore. Do you like the Orioles, Zach? Zach, do you like the Orioles?
We got you, Paul.
There's a baseball team here?
Is there?
What?
So what's the news?
Wait, Aberdeen does play.
There you go.
Hey, what is the news?
I don't know. You tell us because you were at private lessons the whole
Andrew
time.
Suarez?
Everything was breaking, and we had to blow your phone up, and then you probably opened your phone to about a million.
Aaron Hicks signed with the Angels.
Took you 3 hours to call me back. It took you probably 5 hours to text Brad back, and now here we are.
Ryan ghosted.
Why are you
Ryan
assuming
ghosted
that
me? Ryan ghosted me.
Why are you assuming that he texted you back 2 hours before he texted Brad back?
Because I feel like I was his first phone call.
All right, so not that for everyone that's tuning in, by the way,
I'm gonna let that alone.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in here, tuning into the Ryan Ripken Show. If you're new to the channel, hit like and subscribe. We appreciate it. We just had ESPN's Mina Kimes on talking about the Ravens. And yes, I understand there was another story that happened. And what Rocco's referring to is I had my phone absolutely blown the hell up for the duration it felt like for the last 48 hours. And specifically, you're right, I was giving lessons. I was giving lessons at the baseball warehouse, and I was enjoying my time teaching the youth. And then I have people like Rocco, Brad, and Zach, and Kevin blowing up my phone about Ryan, the team sold. There's reports, Ryan.
I actually didn't. I didn't say that to you. I think I texted you to make sure you were good, and in like a like mental state
Well-lit
of being,
area.
basically.
Well, and then I
checked in on you like a good
accidentally,
friend.
I accidentally called Ryan, and Ryan was like, "What? What?" And I'm just like, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry."
Oh yeah, no, I was worried. Kevin called me out of the blue, and then he's like, "Oh no, don't worry, I was in an accident, but all good." And I was like,
"No," I said. My phone dialed you on accident, not I was in an accident.
Oh my god!
I said,
then why did
What did you think that
Because
Kevin's
you
been
texted me,
through?
you're like, are you good? I'm like, yeah, no, I'm fine. Like my phone just dialed you by accident.
I texted.
okay, well now I don't. Okay,
And
I'm
then
glad
I said, how are you doing? And you didn't respond.
I
will
texted
say,
you at 8:02 on Tuesday night and just said, I probably need you to come in tomorrow to do an interview if you can talk. And you go, okay. You didn't even spell it. You said, okay, why? Aki in lesson. Then Tuesday, 10:01, 2 hours later. Sorry, have been in lessons. Woof. You dropped an expletive, a few expletives in there. A lot of, you know what happened, huh? You can call me later. My phone got blown the expletive up for the last 6 hours.
I mean, all is accurate statements, and I'm seeing this. And by the way, also, I just wanted to comment on this so we don't lose it in the comments. I think Thor even said, "Happy you found the podcast. It was the appearance of Mina that drew me in." Well, we're glad that the Mina appearance drew you in, Thor, and thank you for staying. We appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe button if you can, and another one with Birdland Sports and Entertainment. I really appreciate that. You know, we're building something here. We're having a lot of fun with what's going on, and with the news that's coming out here with the Orioles, obviously with the Ravens, this is an exciting time if you're a Baltimore sports fan. How long has it been where you have felt like your two teams are at the peak to try to win championships? It's been a while, right? Mm-hmm. So to go back to the kind of story of it, yes, I was busy on Tuesday night, and the report came out. And if you guys aren't sure what the report is, it was that David Rubenstein and a group was buying the Baltimore Orioles from the Angelos family, and the official press release came out yesterday. But obviously, things are not settled yet. There's still things in the works. But the thing that's funny is I didn't know what you guys were fully talking about at the time of the text. Because again, and Andy, you did it. How dare they interrupt the sport education of the youth? You're right. When I'm locked into the people I'm working with, I want to be locked in, right? I want to teach them so they can make mistakes. They don't make the same mistakes I did, and I made a lot of mistakes. But clearly, some big news happened. But guys, I do understand this is a huge move, and go Birds. This is a huge move for the city of Baltimore for a lot of different reasons.
The profile pic is me from college. That's the only reason I put that up there.
Oh, you put that? I was like, where did
yeah, no, that's me from college. That's my friend. He keeps joining and having his dad as his profile.
I mean,
so I put it up there.
Dude, my hairline, it absolutely sucks, but like you look like you had like troll doll hair in that video.
What are you? Okay.
Oh my God.
What are we talking about?
That's like, yeah, that's like chia pet hair right there, man. That's a bit.
Rocco, get back.
I get why you wear a hat now. I get why.
Yeah, obviously. That's why. Yeah, I was going to say, all the lettuce back there now. Look at that.
There you go.
Yeah. You see, Brad's so happy I took the hat off.
Somehow we're off the topic yet again of what it was.
Happens.
But obviously to kind of tie things in here a little bit, obviously the press release came out that Rubenstein was going to be involved with the Baltimore Orioles. And then they said someone else was going to be involved with the team. And I think that's what also blew my phone line to oblivion.
Grant Hill.
And Grant Hill.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that.
God damn it.
Which, by the way, if you didn't know the Grant Hill connection, sorry, is his dad was a former Orioles VP, Calvin Hill, which is pretty cool because when it dropped, it was like, what the hell does Grant Hill have to do with, the Orioles in Baltimore? I believe his dad was born here and then it was like from 87 to 94 with the Orioles. He began in the front office and then worked his way up to VP and was the VP until 94. So pretty cool connection there, but continue. I'm sorry.
Exactly. And Andy, right? Grant Hill. Yes, that is accurate. Grant Hill, the basketball player, is a part of the ownership group. And for those that are wondering the sale of it, the Angelos family bought it for under $200 million. And the sale is being reported at being for over $1.7 billion. Was that what the doctor?
Billion.
Yes.
What an investment.
Billion. Yeah, it's it really is. But obviously the other name that you guys are probably referring to, there was another name in there. The last name is familiar with mine. Calvin Edward Ripken Jr.'s name was thrown in the ring, wasn't it, guys?
Oh, yes.
Calvin Edward Jr.
Just tossed in there.
Yep.
I think it was just to hand me. Just get in there, Cal. But I will say this, and all jokes aside, I know a lot of people want more conversation about this topic, and I promise you, in due time, we will talk about it, and you're going to hear it straight from me, and there's going to be more conversations, and I want to give you the best context that I can, but also I want to have respect to my family and for all this with the deal that's going through, because the deal is not official. There's so many other moving parts that have to be done. And when the time is right, you come back here and I will give you details of what things mean and what it is going to do moving forward if it's all done correctly. Okay. And I will leave it at that, because I hate to tell people this. I know I'm doing media work now, but I still care about my relationships first. And I want to make sure I go about things the right way. And I say some dumb shit, but I'm not going to overstep and say anything, at least in this case. And in due time, you are going to get the full story from me right here. But I do understand, Baltimore, how much you care about the Orioles. And I hope that you believed me when we said this a while ago, Brad, when we started this show.
Yep. And
Rocco doing Rip and Rock. The Baltimore Orioles were never going to leave Baltimore. That was never going to happen. MLB loves the Orioles here. The city of Baltimore loves the Orioles. And this is going to be a golden age for the team. It's a young team with so much upside. The sky's the limit. And I can't wait to see where that goes. And also for 2024, nothing's changed for this team, by the way, whether this deal goes through, guys. It's going to be the Orioles are going to compete to try to win a World Series. The Orioles are going to try to go back to the playoffs and have their young stars take another step and see who else is going to be a part of the equation. I know I don't try to get so long-winded with this, but I want to drive the point home, because this is the Ryan Ripken Show. It's named after me, guys, in case you didn't know or forgot.
Crazy. That was literally just said too.
Oh, not for long, maybe, according to this guy.
Yeah.
I might have to.
Might have to sell tickets,
Of all the co-hosts you have on this show, like, it had to be Zach. It couldn't have been Kevin.
Who
couldn't have been
has
the Brown show. I don't care about me, but you.
Yeah. Let's look at
Absolutely.
this. Let's look at our options. Who puts butts in seats? I just say dumb. Yeah, I say dumb stuff into a mic and people eat that up.
Well,
I was a personality hire. I was the personality
You need to have a personality to be a personality hire.
Hey,
we got a new one.
Yeah, Brad, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just to get back to it, I will say this, and the only reason I'm saying is because it has been said by Calvin Edward Ripken Jr., is that I am also excited for the future of the Orioles and the next step that this takes, and whatever it means. I think it's going to be a lot of positive things, especially with who else is involved. And I think that, it would be great to see the names that are being thrown around as far as the group that is taking majority ownership of the Orioles. It's a lot of money there. And I would say that it seems as if that could compete with the likes of the Dodgers or Yankees or what have you. So I'm actually pumped if that ends up going there and that's what ends up transpiring. I'm really excited as an Orioles fan to see what happens. So
I will say though, do you think that I think so much about the hype and how excited everyone is in part because of how low everyone was. We've talked about the roller coaster of it really was just one of those things where everyone was at their lowest. And especially with the Ravens, it felt like the big thing was, everyone, when people were upset, it's like nothing's going to change. It's the same old Ravens. And then it's like, it's the same old Orioles. And then suddenly it was like, wait, it's like there's some change in my sports life. And like it gave people just something to go towards of like, maybe it's going to be okay. Like people had given up on sports. Like, I saw so many people like Baltimore sports are just going to always find a way, even after watching the Orioles, how they ended last year. It's like, my sports life is cursed and we're at that low moment. And then it's like something, something new.
Well, I think people were wallowing in the loss. And, I think people are unaware that, hey, this Orioles team is really good. It's really young and they're going to have a great season. But then this news drops and it's like, oh, wait. like, yeah, the Orioles, like they're exciting and they have all these guys and core pieces. So I think that the news just kind of jump started everyone like, oh wait, let's just, the Ravens, it was terrible how it ended, but let's shift, right? Let's shift into this other team in Baltimore that took a huge step last year, and now they can build on that.
And they can. And go ahead, Rock.
I'm saying I think what's great about this, I know you can't say like much about it right now, like you said, until everything becomes official. So so I'm going to respect your wishes, but I think what's great about it is this guy, David M. Rubenstein, is a Baltimore native.
Yeah,
he's from here. He grew up watching this team, I'm sure, going to games at both ballparks, I can imagine. And to now have a piece, have a share, have that majority stake or the control stake, they call it, in this team when this thing goes through. Obviously, it needs to go through the MLB ownership group to become official, that transaction. But I mean, it's in the works. The Orioles put the statement out. The agreement is official. It's been agreed upon. This is not like rumors or reports anymore. Like, it's happening, but obviously things still need to happen as far as getting it done and finalized. But for this guy to be a homegrown guy and a billionaire on top of that, he's probably going to want to spend money. And I don't think that happens right away. Like, people could be asking, oh, when are the extensions going to get done? When's Adley going to get extended, or Gunner, or Jackson Holiday when he's ready? It's like, patience, people, patience. I feel like the time will come. I feel like this guy is going to put a great plan in place. He has a solid group around him, including your father, Rip, who's on that board of investors that you keep making faces about it, but still, he knows ball. He knows baseball. So to have someone like that, to have the people surrounding him that he does, and to have money and to be a homegrown person on top of that, I think that's a recipe for success going forward. And I think the Orioles fans especially have a lot to be happy about for the foreseeable future. I think this is going to really take off in the coming years.
Yeah, and again, short term here, by the way, regardless, there's nothing 2024, spring training's in 2 weeks, guys. That's when it starts.
Yeah,
so
we're
like
going, by the way.
We're going spring training. Yeah, not spring breaking, spring training.
We are going.
That's so much less cool. Actually, I guess that is just as cool. Depends on.
I know, Zach, you're like, I know you still want to be spring breaking. We understand. You're 23.
Almost 24.
Well, we're proud of you. You're a good kid. But I just want to read this for people that didn't see this. And again, these are not my words. This is why I appreciate everyone respecting where I am. The Orioles. What happened, Rock?
No, I was just making fun of you. Just continue.
Well, that nothing new there. The Orioles have been entrenched in this city for decades and decades. And I told people this a long time ago. When the Colts moved out of Baltimore, the two teams that were in the region consistently, it was the Commanders, formerly were the Redskins, and the Baltimore Orioles. And so people, no matter what, some people, obviously a lot of people are Ravens fans in Baltimore, but that love for the Orioles has been here and it hasn't gone away. But what's been dormant is Orioles' success over the last 3 decades. We talked about it so many times. In the last 40 years, the Orioles have made the playoffs 6 times. They haven't gone back to a World Series since 1983. That's a long time. So the ultimate goal for whatever happens is to see the pride, the energy, and above all, a championship come back to the city of Baltimore, because the fans here deserve it. The team is working hard at it, and everyone involved, and it's going to be a glorious time. The last thing I'll say, as far as with my family involved, and again, I promise you, when the time comes, I will speak more on it. So hang in there. Trust me. I will speak more on this. But the last thing, I will quote Calvin Edwin Ripken Jr. via X or Twitter. It is, I'm excited to once again be a part of the Orioles organization, and I thank David Rubenstein for including me in the ownership group. The Orioles have been a part of my life since I was a child, and this is a special day. I look forward to this opportunity and will do whatever I can to help the organization. Let's go O's. And so the point that I want to make here, at least for that, and I'll just leave it at this, the city has a lot of pride. Oriole fans have a lot of pride, and the Ripken family has a lot of pride for the team. And I know this was something, no one wants to see the team have more success than my father. I will leave it at that. Gosh, I gave him a lot of compliments there. It feels weird. but I can do it. And I joke around, guys. By the way, like he's my dad. I love to just keep it light, keep it light. And you guys know it. You guys rip on me now too for all types of shit.
Ripping on Rip. It's one of my favorite pastimes.
I feel like fathers and sons just rip on each other anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it is true. But again, due time, we will touch more on the Baltimore Orioles, but spring training is 2 weeks away, and it is going to be a blast. And actually coming up here soon, we might have some more Orioles guests in the works coming up here as we get ready for spring training, so stay tuned. I know the Caravan was just here. A lot of the players were here for the Ravens AFC Championship game.
In studio.
Yeah, some guys stopped by the studio. They love the NBA jams too, by the way.
Baseball season, man, right around the corner. If you're single on Valentine's Day, just remember, pitchers and catchers report on February 14th. You have a lot to look forward to.
There you go.
Yeah, and
who did that, by the way? Be like, oh yeah, by the way, it's on Valentine's Day, so
yeah, they really did.
It's for people who absolutely love baseball, Brad.
I know. I'm just saying. It's just
but like
funny.
the players have to now leave their significant others on Valentine's Day.
Oh, I did that all the time with Jamie. It would be
Nice.
we'd set it up as going down to spring training. Yeah, I know.
Nice.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, it was a yearly tradition that I'd leave.
Did you get her flowers, Rip? Did you make sure?
We do a lobster. We do a lobster bake. That was our thing. She's got a Maine connection. That's where she grew up. Is the stadio in the warehouse? Should it? No, it's not.
It will be.
I've seen a few people.
No, it will
say
not.
that, though.
No,
It is in a warehouse, but not.
It is.
Yeah.
That's what I meant to say. It is. Yes.
It's not in the warehouse yet.
Technically, it's a Verizon store.
Ours is. It will be at home plate eventually. It's in the works. It's happening. We will live stream during games. They're going to have to avoid us. We have to avoid
in
them.
the dugout. In the dugout. We're going to be doing long bong.
You're right, Andy. You're right, Andy. You're absolutely right.
I can't agree more.
That I am. You're absolutely
All
right. This is fantastic.
We're having fun here, guys. We appreciate you tuning in to the Ryan Ripken Show. We do this every Mondays and Thursdays. Now, as baseball picks up, since we're on the topic here, we have a lot more content coming on the baseball side. And I know a lot of people, we will be talking football. We're going to talk about other spicy topics because there are some really cool things that are going around the sports world that we want to talk about on top of it. But our schedule and content could change, just to let you know, as we move forward. Not that it's going to change, that it's going to stop. No. The opposite, by the way. We're going to have more and more coming your way. And I think that you guys are really going to enjoy this. We started this in the fall, not exactly sure where this was all going to head. We had an idea, but we kept evolving and learning it. And I am confident to say the best is yet to come. So if you're new to that channel, hit that like and subscribe button. If you're here to start a campaign for Zack Orr, please keep that on hold with Rocco until another year or two.
Listen,
and we'll move on.
I'm collecting donations. Zack Orr for head coach. Marty.
You're going to keep them all. You're going to keep them all.
All right. Last thing I want to say about the Orioles. Has anyone else seen because they had the spring training like move day video, and in it, it seems like they they had different items that were new, like in it, like the old time, like full Oriole bird was on the hat, and like the jerseys had some new trim on them. And I saw that going around Twitter, so I'm not really sure what's going on there, but it seems like they were teasing maybe something else this year.
Little throwbacks.
I'm not sure. I just saw what on Twitter people were like screaming.
You saw the hat with the Oriole bird on it, like the old Oriole
bird.
Yeah, not the new one. So that's like, I think that logo's sick. I love those hats, honestly.
I want to get a hat immediately if that's back.
New one's cool.
People would love them.
Yeah, the new one's cool, but the old one is like, that's like, all right. Old is always like great to bring back if you have like cool throwbacks. Now, if you have like, throwbacks that people absolutely hated, never bring them back again. But like, I think like if they did wear them or did something, whether it was in spring training or during the regular season with that, like fans would be pumped up about it. It would be cool.
It's like, it's probably unpopular opinion, but the 70s White Sox logo, I hate that shit.
I want them to bring back.
I grew up in the 90s. I grew up like 90s where like the White Sox still have like their current logo. And then whenever they go back to like the 70s White Sox, it looks so dumb.
I just really want what's it called? I just lost my train of thought.
But to your point, Ron,
What was I just about to complain?
What were you saying, Brad?
Oh, the all orange.
Oh,
The
the
all
I was
orange.
just saying, I was saying to your point, like bringing throwbacks back is cool as long as it looks cool. So that's why. I
Yeah,
was like,
exactly.
like
If
White
they're- if
Sox.
they're cool, yeah. You don't
Wasn't-
want to do like a White Sox thing where, like you said, like it's like the throwbacks have to be like dope. Like I wish like the Sixers would wear their like Allen Iverson like throwback blue or black jerseys with the old Sixers logo on it. Is like maybe not City Connects, but like having a night like that. Like fans love that stuff because it's like it's very nostalgic. Like it brings you back to your childhood for a lot of people, and you're like,
Oh,
damn,
yeah.
I remember wearing this. I remember going to these games, seeing that. Like it's really cool to see. So maybe they will. Who knows?
We're gonna have to have a throwback conversation at one
Well,
point.
if they're not
Yeah.
good, they're going to get the Chris Sale treatment, is what it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's continue on with our programming here. And for those that are wondering, the baseball content will come more and more as we get closer to baseball season. It's right there. It's right there. But we still got a lot more other spicy topics to kind of get into, at least in this region, or at least just that we think is interesting, right? So if you guys just are joining us, we had Mina Kimes on from ESPN to talk about the Raven situation, Mike McDonald, Seattle, Zack Orr is taking over. Denard Wilson is now the defensive coordinator, former defensive back coach now of the Baltimore Ravens, now the defensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans. Am I missing anything right there? I think we're good. But guys, how about this then? As it keeps moving on, do we want to? Actually, I'll give you guys the choice here, Brad. Where do we want to go next? Where do we want to go?
So one thing that we haven't talked about, I think we've only talked once about it on the show ever, was Formula One, and I think it's worth talking about today because Lewis Hamilton is no longer going to be with Mercedes, and that is a huge deal. For those of you guys who don't follow Formula One or racing, it is the equivalent of Tom Brady leaving the Patriots to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it's interesting because of who is also going to more than likely be his teammate in Charles Leclerc, who is the top 3 or 4 racer or driver in Formula One as well. And I tell you what, guys, for those of you guys aren't familiar with Formula One, there's usually like in the teams, there's one guy who's clearly better than the other, so that like you always know your front runner, your front guy for your team. And Charles Leclerc was always that guy, still is, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works because everybody knows their lane, everybody knows who's the better driver. And so I don't know how that'll work out. Ferrari has always been known to kind of like make weird decisions. And it's not that if you didn't have a chance to sign Lewis Hamilton, you wouldn't. But now it's like, well, what do you do with Charles Leclerc, who is clearly your guy that you've stuck around with for a while? And maybe it's that.
Do they score differently? Like, does a lead driver like score more points? Like, is it wouldn't you want both of your drivers to be like top dogs, or like is there like a strategic way where like points wise it's different?
Yeah. So like, for example, every single one of these drivers have egos, by the way. So just because they're teammates doesn't mean that like they're rooting for their guy. Like it's just it's very weird. It's very, very weird. So they compete with each other too. So even though they're teammates and they're like, oh yeah, like we won all these points, it's just the ego thing, man. You look at Max Verstappen, who was with Red Bull, and Checo. It just is very clear that they're not like really close with each other, even though they're happy that maybe their team wins or what have you. It obviously the goal is to get your team to win, but there's also these individual awards. It's not like football. It's not like American sports. They want to be the guy that wins every single time. So with Lewis Hamilton being a 6-time champ with Mercedes and the greatest driver of all time going to Formula One, I'm just interested to see how this all plays out, especially with Ferrari and Charles Leclerc.
And how much did the stock go up for Ferrari?
Oh yeah, that was the other thing. So today, if you guys don't know, I do have another channel that's involving investing, and so I keep a close eye on stocks. Yeah, the Ferrari last year, Ferrari jumped up 60% just by itself, and then today alone went up another 13% on the news of Lewis Hamilton becoming the driver for Ferrari. So yeah,
do you know
really
how big the deal was for him to move?
I don't know yet. I actually didn't look that up, but it's a lot. I mean, they probably 20-30 million a year easy.
Oh wow.
Yes,
For
we're
him.
bringing back the Dr. Evil. By the way, anytime there's a lot of money, I think we should bring it back. I think we should bring it back.
Justin Madubuike with the
When Justin Madubuike,
There you
when
go.
Justin Madubuike
When?
signs that big contract in Baltimore,
Yes.
Adley potentially. You get it going out.
I'm just saying. So, I mean, but again, it's truly, this is why like we like talking about it. It's fascinating to me, and that the fact that move sent a stock flying.
That's
guy's movement.
that's what was like when Brad told us originally. That's what blew my mind was I didn't realize that, like, because obviously like a Tom Brady going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you know, people don't then go, oh, the Buccaneers, you know, stock went up by this much, but it actually does in F1 impact that. So that's crazy that it can really sway a stock that much.
Yeah.
Well, so Formula One's the second most popular sport in the world next to soccer. So like it's just the globe is freaking out right now. And it would be kind of like the equivalent of like Tom Brady going to play for the Saints while Drew Brees was still playing.
Well, I have another question. Was this expected to happen, or was it just like out of the blue craziness?
It was kind of out of the blue. I don't think it was unexpected that Lewis Hamilton was going to move on. I think it was out of the blue that he was going to go to Ferrari because of who was already there.
Well, I still think that in Formula One, the best Formula One racer is John Girard and all of that, if I'm not mistaken. Do you guys know John Girard? Do you remember him?
Sound like a dog with peanut butter on the roof of your mouth.
What?
Do you not know who John Girard is, Kevin?
No.
Zach?
No.
What? Oh my goodness. I can't make any movie quotes around these people because the movies just came out when you guys were born.
We're old, dude. Face it. We are old men. Us three right here. We're old.
Yeah,
Brad, you know who John Girard is, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have to explain to you. Yeah.
Yeah, Zach and I are the TikTokers.
Okay.
You guys have never seen. You guys have never
How
seen,
about Shake and Bake?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
What movie?
Talladega Nights.
Thank you. So
Classic.
who's
Ricky
the driver that rivals Ricky?
Oh,
Is that John?
John Girard.
Goodness gracious. Sorry, let's get back on track. You guys just ruined it for me.
Okay.
You guys are good kids. Anyway, the Formula
I hate my
One
life.
is
I hate my life.
dropped the ball there.
In my life.
on other news. I think we just got breaking news. Joel Embiid has a torn meniscus. I think is
Crazy.
what popped
Formula
up.
One's so popular, we lost 20 streamers talking about it right here. But Embiid tore his
Well,
meniscus.
now we can talk
Wow.
about basketball, and I don't think
Rocco, no, take center stage and explain what just happened. I want you to break this news.
I'm very upset. I'm very upset.
You were just talking Sixers too.
I'm very upset.
Why are you upset, Rocco?
I'm having a very bad day. I need that
Why?
music in the background.
Well, I don't know if people know
Because-
this, but
Why are you having a bad day?
Why am I having a bad day? Because Joel Embiid tore his meniscus.
And why does that matter to you?
Because I'm a Sixers fan.
There we go.
Ryan, this would have been the perfect time
see,
for you to hit the
Rocco and I
wah-wah.
have a rivalry.
Oh,
And you know what Zach
okay.
said? Because he's such a scumbag. He said, I hope he gets a head coaching job.
Rocco put in the behind the scenes chat, Joel Embiid tore his meniscus. I'm so sad. And I put, hope he gets a head coaching job.
for the gosh.
Stand on
I
business.
hate everything right now.
And that, yeah, I know you do. Well, that is big news for the Sixers. It just feels like they haven't been able to put the whole process together over there in Philly over the years. That's for damn sure. All right, let's move on though. Let's actually jump back into a little bit of football. Do you guys mind?
Yeah,
Is that okay?
Let's do it.
Why don't we talk about something that's actually freaking awesome? And how about that there was not this part. This part's not awesome. There was an emergency on a flight today going from, I believe, Baltimore to Phoenix.
Yes.
And I believe I want to make sure that we have the correct tweet.
I got it.
You got the correct tweet you're going to pull up. So there was a medical emergency on the flight. And you wouldn't believe who possibly could have stepped in. So here's the tweet from Andrew Springs. A woman on my Southwest flight from Baltimore to Phoenix this morning had a mid-flight medical emergency. The doctor nurse attending to her couldn't find a strong pulse, and her blood pressure was extremely low and required oxygen to breathe. It was genuinely scary. Page 2. A man in the aisle seat popped up. Could it be your blood sugar? I have a diabetic testing kit. It was Ravens tight end Mark Andrews, and Mark Andrews instructed the medical professionals equal citizen heroes in this story. On using his test kit, eventually her heart rate stabilized. Paramedics met the flight as soon as we landed. Andrews deplaned quietly, no fanfare, as he has done his whole career. He stepped up in a huge moment when people needed him the most. Watching complete strangers spring into action to help save someone's life is truly amazing. That is one of the best stories that you're going to hear.
Yeah.
And
Incredible.
again, the fact that you don't know somebody, but you see someone in distress, Zach, you do the right thing. And Mark Andrews was just trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest parts about that story is he just got off after the plane landed and went about his day. It was just, he knew that, hey, I just went out, I helped someone, but it's not about him. He doesn't want the fanfare. He's not saying, I'm Mark Andrews, I'm the tight end for the Ravens. He was like, okay, that happened, and just went on. And actually, shout out Andrew, who is the one who tweeted. I actually believe he watches the show. So big shout out to you, Andrew.
Oh, nice.
Hey, Andrew. Andrew, by the way, thank you, by the way, if you do.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
But what we appreciate more is that you shared a very heartwarming story. And not that the fact that it's awesome that it's Mark Andrews if you watch it, Kevin. I mean, Mark goes about his business. Everyone knows how dynamic of a player he is, especially when he's healthy. But Mark wants to just go out there and show to you on and off the field, he's a genuine dude that cares about doing the best thing for someone. And for me, I wish we see more stories like this in the news world.
Yeah, I mean, Mark is someone, and I've had the pleasure of talking with him, and he's somebody that is so selfless, so genuine, and nothing about this is like, oh, Mark Andrews would do that. Of course, Mark Andrews is this exact type of person. And to hear a story like this, to see how he was a superhero right here. Mark Andrews was a superhero for doing this. And his story already is so inspirational about, the diabetes and everything that he's gone through with that. But Mark is somebody that a lot of people look up to, and rightfully so, because of who he is. And obviously the on the field football stuff is, that's one thing, and he's great at it. But off the field as a person, and I agree, where again, athletes are not just athletes. Athletes are human beings who have sides to them, who have stories, who have likes and dislikes. And I love these type of stories. Obviously, this is one where it worked out for everybody. It was a scary situation here. And in those moments, you got to be cool and calm and figure everything out. And I'm happy it all turned out okay. And I'm really glad that Mark was in the position to help save somebody, because it just made everything work. Everything turned out okay.
It really did. And again, I think it's just a reminder, just people are in need all the time. And if you see someone step up and do the right thing, because how I look at it too, I think everyone does, wouldn't you want someone to do that for you? And also in this case, make a difference. But what's even better is, in this case, Mark was equipped with understanding what was going on and didn't hesitate when the moment arose. So awesome stuff. Mark Andrews, it's obviously wish he was still playing this season and the Ravens were in the Super Bowl. But again, great guy, great player on the field, better guy off the field.
And he did, the Ravens released a statement by him on the situation. And in it, he said that the heroes of it are actually there was a nurse and a doctor on board he was the one who obviously gave them the kit to help. So even in that, he's trying to be like, I was just right place, right time. Like, it's these people that really saved the day. So that's the kind of stuff that it's really cool to see, the selflessness. And even when people try to give him credit for helping save a life, and he's like, no, seriously, it wasn't me. It was these other people. Well, so that's awesome.
And it's true. Paramedics, paramedics, people in the medical world never get enough credit as well.
And I like that Andrew put that in his post. He said equal heroes in this scenario. It's not just Mark Andrews.
Right.
It's all the people that went out of their way to stand up and help this person in need. And that's what makes it cool.
Right.
Absolutely. Sure. And Karen, I just wanted to touch on this for a second. This is what we are all supposed to do. It's the right thing. Stand up, dude. And that's the thing. It is the right thing to do. And it's awesome when you see a guy that's idolized, has the same values that you hope to see. But as we know in the world, you hope everyone is going to do the right thing. The reality is they don't. So it's just great to see a role model on one of the best players in the world at his position. And he has all the success, doesn't change who he is off the field. And that is a guy that cares about others around him, even if he doesn't know them. So awesome story. Let's flip to another side real quickly. And this is our last Ravens-related clip for this, and then I think we'll dive one more outside of football, fair to say, and then we'll get on out of here, guys. Is that cool? Brad, are you cool with that?
Pretty cool.
Yeah, there's 2 football related ones, but yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I meant one that's Ravens related, one that is not.
Yeah.
So which one would you like to start with, Brad?
Let's go with Jeff Saturday talking about Lamar Jackson and comparing him to Peyton Manning. So take a listen to this. I think there's a lot of parallels here, which honestly will make you feel really good if you're a Lamar Jackson or a Ravens fan. So take a listen.
Start crowning guys and start saying he's going to be a 2-time, MVP player. And I live this now. I live this with Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning got freaking destroyed. And he's very similar. He didn't play well in playoff games, right? Like he didn't elevate his game in the playoffs as people expected him to do, which we're expecting Lamar Jackson to do. So is there a race conversation to be had? Sure. If we're talking about people who still don't think Lamar Jackson should be a quarterback and they're boneheads, okay? But as we're talking about comparing guys' careers, he is going to be in the same vein, and I'm going to have the same critique for him that everybody did for Peyton Manning and other players. Josh Allen has played well in the playoffs, and so for him to take the same brunt, the Lamar Jackson conversation, though, to me, should have been a much bigger conversation about how they played the game. They set him up to fail.
Interesting perspective here. And by the way, before we dive more into it, Joe was calling us out on not riding the Jeep tonight, guys.
Yeah. Which
And we
reminded me
got to ride that
We
Jeep.
do have to ride the Jeep.
you have to ride the Jeep. That reminded me too that we haven't talked about Discord yet either as well.
We're messing up
But-
all the way around here, by the way.
Shout out Adam's Jeep
Shout out Adam's Jeep. We're riding the Jeep, by the way, because of the fact that they are amazing. Adam's Jeep of Maryland is a sponsor of the show, proud sponsor of the show. And actually, guys, I had to just get my car taken care of. I told you this. Oh yeah, there you go, Zach.
Boom.
I had to get my car taken care of, and the efficiency to get it done in and out, it was cost, or as far as cost efficiency, fantastic. They're awesome people to work with, and have a lot more working with them moving forward, as we do here with the show and even outside the show. So stay tuned for that. But if you need service, car parts, whatever it may be, tell them that the Ryan Ripken Show sent you. But if you have any questions, reach out to us, and you can even ask us in the Discord, which we do have a Discord here, by the way, everyone. Please join it. We will talk behind the scenes. You want to talk more directly with us, that's another great way to stay in it. And Brad just put the Discord in the group chat right now, or in the comment section right now. All right, back to the Jeff Saturday conversation, because it is important. There is the comparisons to Peyton Manning, obviously, right? There was everyone saying he couldn't win the big games. He was the obvious MVP. And in Lamar Jackson's case, Lamar's done everything right for the most part in the regular season. He's going to win 2 MVPs, but the only thing he doesn't have on his accomplishments yet as a quarterback is a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl victory. So where do we discuss with this, where this starts? I mean, Zach, I think it's a pretty fair assessment that the Lamar Jackson, that people need to pump the brakes on it. I know people expect more, but even the great ones are not necessarily going to win some off the bat, like a guy like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is kind of, you look back and you just look at the quarterbacks in the NFL currently that even were starting quarterbacks when they had, won Super Bowls, and there's not many. I think it's almost like less than 4, because obviously you have Brady that won so many, and it's hard to win a Super Bowl. I feel like that, and people hate hearing this, and I know, and I even hate saying it, but it is hard to win a Super Bowl. At the end of the day, 31 teams will not win the Super Bowl every year. So yes, it sucks that that's what's holding Lamar Jackson back in so many of these conversations, is he can't go and win the Super Bowl. I agree. I don't think this last game is 100% on him. I think coaching really failed him in game planning. So I think you do have to pump the brakes. Even Mina just said it. He's a young quarterback. He just turned 27. Like he will spend all of next year as a 27-year-old. He is just hitting his prime. This is not like the Ravens have a Lamar Jackson who's 32, on the way down, who's been trying this for 11 years. This was just his 5th year as a starter. So yes, people expected him to win by now, but he still just turned 27. He has so many more opportunities.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And I think that's where people look at, we still have this perception that when you get into the league, you got to have immediate success. in order to be considered one of the best players in the world or even be one of the greats. I mean, Drew Brees started his career with the Chargers, right? And then he goes to New Orleans, Sean Payton, everything kind of clicks. He won a Super Bowl, but he's still going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks. Peyton Manning is going to be, or already is, one of the best quarterbacks. And Kevin, Lamar Jackson is 27 years old. And I think that people, when they want to think about it, he might just be getting into his prime, and his game is only going to get better.
And you see with him, he's been fully healthy for 3 of his 5 seasons as a starter, and he's won 2 MVPs in those 3 seasons. I mean, look, the playoff success hasn't been there. He hasn't played well enough for the most part in the playoffs here, but he still has so much green grass ahead of him. Literally on the field when he runs, he's just juking guys out. He has that green grass, but there's so much time for Lamar. And I think that, and it's something that I actually, and Sean Merriman said this, was we judge on championships, especially at the quarterback position, where if you don't have a championship, if you're not winning, what are you doing? Essentially is the conversation. And just because a player hasn't won a championship or hasn't gotten over a certain hump yet doesn't mean they're not playing good football or aren't a great quarterback. And I think with Lamar, a lot of the conversation with him just comes from this place of whether it's people still not accepting he's a good quarterback and that he can play the position the way he plays it, or if they're so honed in on these mistakes that he makes that they can't accept all the success that he has. It just feels like with Lamar, everything is magnified for him, and it's under a different microscope or a different lens. And again, I'm not saying Lamar's a perfect player, but you got to give him the respect that he deserves. And while, look, he didn't play good enough in the championship game, I think we can all admit that. I'm not going to let one game define Lamar's MVP season. And while that game was the most important, he didn't show up when the lights were the brightest. And again, we can say stuff like that. It doesn't mean that, okay, he's a terrible quarterback and he's never going to win anything. This was the first time Lamar was in an AFC championship game. And sometimes it just comes down to that, where you need to experience it. This was his first time playing Patrick Mahomes. Sometimes you have to experience going through the champs or the organization that's considered the quote unquote dynasty, regardless of what you think about that conversation right now. Lamar is a great quarterback. He's one of the best in the NFL. He was the best quarterback in the league this year. And again, they didn't get the job done. It's disappointing in everything that goes into this season. I think when you look back on it, they didn't win the Super Bowl, and that was a failure. There's a lot to like about Lamar Jackson moving forward.
Hell yeah, there's a lot to like about Lamar Jackson moving forward. And we talked about it with Mina at the end. Yeah, quarterback wins are not a stat, right? We talked about that. But when Lamar Jackson plays, the Ravens usually win. Like, that is a fact. You look at it, no one has won more games than Lamar Jackson, except for Patrick Mahomes, since they entered the league together. And Patrick Mahomes, you can love or hate Patrick Mahomes. The dude's a baller. And Andy Reid's one of the best coaches in the history of the NFL as well. So you have one of the best quarterbacks ever already in Patrick Mahomes with Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes, you can say what you want. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. He made some spectacular plays, but he and the Chiefs didn't make a big mistake. And that's the reason why they won that game. Lamar Jackson and this team has all the ability to get back there, and they still have time. Lamar's 27. And if Lamar continues to develop with guys like Zay Flowers, and you have Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, and you're able to develop under Todd Monken, sky can be the limit, guys. It truly can be. But, also to give context, this is where we're going to segue into the next topic. It's hard to win when you're young. Not a lot of quarterbacks do it, and especially in your second season. And right now, I'm talking about, and Joe, actually, it's a great point. Brady and Mahomes really skewed the quarterback conversation. Yeah, no doubt about it, because everyone thinks if you don't win right now, how can you be considered a great? Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady could go down, and they happen to be overlapped when they were playing. So, and Karen, you said the same thing here. Some greats never win. Dan Marino, Jim Kelly, and you have Steve McNair is another one down here. And that was, I saw highlights of that game, by the way, the Rams-Titans recently. It was up on there. Woof. I know, Zach, you weren't even born yet, but and that shocks. It not shocks me. It just bothers me.
Greatest show on turf.
Glad you could experience it. But anyway, the point is, it's so hard to win. Where I was going with this conversation is there's a quarterback in his second year that'd be the first quarterback to win in their second year since Russell Wilson with the Seattle Seahawks. And before that, it was Ben Roethlisberger. And we're talking about Brock Purdy, guys. Brock Purdy, San Francisco 49ers are going to the Super Bowl, and they have a chance to overthrow the Chiefs And also Brock Purdy has a chance to change the narrative on how he's viewed. And I still think it's ridiculous that he has done so many great things, and he has been a major reason why they're in the Super Bowl. But Cam Newton is still talking about how he views Brock Purdy, and we want to listen to what he has to say on his show, 4th and 1.
Never said that Brock Purdy was trash. What I did say is Brock Purdy is a game manager. That's not hate. That's just what I feel to be facts. But I still reserve the right to say this. To be labeled a game changer, Brock Purdy has to be the best player on the offensive side of the ball. And that's not the case.
And who's the best player?
Christian McCaffrey. Man, look, I ain't recanting shit.
Go.
And if you really want to just be honest, if you add in the defensive talent and you add in the offensive talent, Brock Purdy is the 10th best player on his team. Okay, cool. Did he have a great game? Yes. Is he been playing out of his mind? Yes. Is he a quarterback that's hot? Yes. But he's still the 10th best player on his team.
I feel like that was that. I was just gonna say that is for Zach, by the way, because that's exactly what Zach has been saying this entire time.
Thank you.
Everybody just takes it as Brock Purdy slander, and we've both been saying
Yes.
this, right? Like, you know, we both said that there's an MVP candidate on the San Francisco 49ers, and it was not Brock Purdy. We both said that it was Christian McCaffrey. So I feel like that clip was meant for you, Zach.
Yeah, no, I was actually over here raising my hands to the air while Cam was preaching. And it really is, being labeled a game manager is not a bad thing. It's what he excels at. Tom Brady was a game manager. You know, it doesn't mean that he's not good or he's not a top 5 quarterback right now in the league. It means that what he does best is knowing where to go with the football, knowing how to read the defenses fast, knowing how to make quick decisions and deliver it on time. And we do see times where he has to make plays with his legs, but I agree with Cam where when you have so much talent around you, he doesn't need to be a game changer. And that's not him. If they need him to be a game changer and he goes out and does it, we can revisit this, but we've seen him struggle without some guys. I don't think it is a bad thing to be a game manager. Like you said, Brad, he does exactly what he needs to do. And that is why his team is going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, which I understand. And I'd have to count off the list. The San Francisco 49ers have so many talented players. So they're very well, you could say, well, he's really good. He's really good. He's really good. He's a star. They're full of stars, right? Mm-hmm. But Kevin, I think my point, at least to this, is that Brock Purdy, with what he has done and we saw it in the Detroit Lions NFC Championship game, he did more than just manage the game. He had to step up and make some big plays, both passing and passing and with his legs.
Yeah, I think he was showing off those wheels a little bit in that Detroit game, and he was making plays like that. And you can even go back to the divisional round where I think that was a really rough game for Brock for about 3 quarters, and then he shows up when he's needed and leads that game-winning drive. And I know the rain in the divisional round, we can talk about all the circumstances, but Brock is a good quarterback, and I think that, look, is he as dynamic as a Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or, Josh, all these guys? I'm not putting him in that tier, but I'm not going to just say, well, he's a terrible quarterback and he's made by the roster that San Francisco put around him, because I'm not going that far, because he has shown. I mean, if you look at metrics, if you look at stats, he's there. But I think the term game manager, and I think the way Cam said it, all of a sudden, I think that just turned it into an insult, because people are viewing game managers, that guy can win with whatever talent that's put around him because he himself isn't good enough. It's the roster. Where I think Brock is still a part of San Francisco's success and a big part of it. But I'm not here to say that Brock is the best quarterback in the league, because I think that, again, there are others that are above him and tiers above him. But I also don't think he's this awful guy that can't get anything done by himself.
I disagree with some of the things that you have said, Kevin. And one of those things is that if you put Brock Purdy on the Packers and remove Jordan Love and put him on the 49ers, 2 totally different teams. And
I think the roster has something to do with it. I agree.
Because but my point is that Jordan Love has done way more with less. And if you put Brock Purdy on that team, I don't think that his performance is going to be up there where what we saw from Jordan Love at the end of the season. That's just my opinion. I just don't think that to what Zach's saying, the game manager standpoint, he's not a playmaker, and we saw him make some plays this past game because he is on fire right now. But what we saw him all season, this season, was not the playmaker like we've seen from some of these other quarterbacks that have done a whole lot more with less.
I think it makes sense. I mean, it's almost like, if we were to talk about it from a Ravens perspective, put Lamar on the 49ers and what happens, put Brock on the Ravens. Put Brock on a Ravens team with the Willie Snead, no disrespect to Willie and all these guys, but Seth Roberts and all those players with guys like Lamar.
He's not having an MVP season with that roster, I can tell you that.
Yes. So that's why, again, those guys are in tiers and the roster helps Purdy, but I again won't say that he's just like one of the worst. Like, I'm not saying he's Mac Jones level.
No, I'm not saying that.
Right? Whoa.
I'm not saying I never said it was trash.
All right, now we're getting more disrespectful here. And I understand the arguments that everyone's saying here, by the way, about elevating talent. Brad, you've been very adamant, obviously, on where you feel with Brock Purdy. And again, you're not calling him a bad player whatsoever. No. I understand, and we all understand that. It's rosters do help teams, and being put in good situations definitely does help quarterbacks. But one part that I would like to mention here is that San Francisco, when they had Jimmy Garoppolo and they had Brock Purdy then take over, Brock's elevation of the team was so noticeable. And even for this season, I want to read it off. And I understand you can say what you want with the roster. 31 touchdown passes, 11 interceptions this season, 113 passer rating. Last year in limited time, 13 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions, 107 rating. And Brock Purdy now in those 2 years has only lost a playoff game that he did not finish. So I'm not sitting here defending and saying, of course, you look at the roster construction, it's probably not going to work out if Brock Purdy was the quarterback of the Ravens in 2019. But he is a damn good quarterback that has the chance with what they have built out there to at least be a part of history, because he has done some tremendous things. And the last thing I'll say with this, Joe brought up a point. Quarterbacks at the end of the day are supposed to manage the game. You want to be a superstar, but Patrick Mahomes, the reason why they won that game is that Patrick Mahomes made some spectacular plays against the Ravens and then did not make the mistake. And that is being a game manager when you have to. So that's where we'll leave it. And it should be a good game. I'm not excited about the game. And yes, I understand they got to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G. I do understand that. I fully understand that. But
what happened when Jimmy G went away from the 49ers, right? Like, no.
But yeah, Jimmy G. I understand that completely. But what I'm just saying is the Niners just look completely different, in my opinion, with Brock Purdy than they did Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm still not betting against the Chiefs, by the way. Like, that's not a team I'm going to bet against because, but the Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. But I just want to make the point. I do understand. But Brock Purdy in year 2, I think he deserves more credit. Before we get out of here, by the way, I think there's other news, guys. I saw in the chat, Cliff Kingsbury is going to the Raiders to be their offensive coordinator.
Damian Pierce makes his first.
Not Damian Pierce.
Why did I say Damian?
Because you're still stuck on fantasy. Antonio Pierce.
I'll say when the Ravens were going through the defensive coordinator stuff yesterday, I kept mixing Denard Wilson and Zack Orr up and saying Zach Wilson. So Ravens defensive coordinator candidate Zach Wilson was what I was saying all day yesterday.
Oh, don't you love it?
I don't know if people would be very happy about that choice.
I don't think so.
But Cliff Kingsbury is the one that was chosen. Apparently, there was reports here. If I was looking at it, Ian Rappaport said that the Raiders had interest in Chip Kelly.
Yeah,
they were very interested, but Antonio Pierce chose Cliff Kingsbury. And for those that don't remember Cliff, he was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Before that, head coach at Texas Tech
for Mahomes,
for Patrick Mahomes. So it makes you think, what is that offense going to look like? And clearly, who is going to be the quarterback of that team?
Yeah, that's a big question, right? Like,
it's a huge question.
Yeah.
Aiden O'Connell finished the season. Jimmy Garoppolo then became the backup. You still have Devontae Adams. You have Josh Jacobs there, but they still have to figure out that whole situation with him.
Russell Wilson. That would be awesome. Russell Wilson in Vegas would be great.
Well, is that going to fit the Cliff Kingsbury style, where it is a lot of they love to throw. They love to throw the football. And that kind of goes against Antonio Pierce's philosophy. That's why I'm a little bit.
They have the 13th pick. Do they try to draft a quarterback?
Get Kyler Murray in there.
Oh,
Guys.
my
No,
God.
Guys, no. Kyler Murray is not going
Okay, well,
to.
I said the 13th
Vegas.
pick, they could maybe grab someone. Yeah, I'm seeing people want potentially JJ McCarthy there. Not at 13, but
Yeah,
I
not
don't
at
see that.
13.
They have him at 44.
But Kingsbury has done a great job of being a part of or with teams that have had successful quarterbacks go to the NFL and all that, right? It's documented, even though Baker Mayfield started at Tech and then went to Oklahoma. But he is a talented offensive mind. Just really curious. There's so many question marks that are left to be said there, Brad.
Here's what I'll say.
Yeah, go ahead.
The AFC West is not going to be as easy for the Chiefs as it has been in years past next season. With Jim Harbaugh now and Antonio Pierce seems to have his number. It's going to be really tough in that division, I think, next year and Sean Payton. Let's not forget that either. But yeah, it's just going to be very interesting to see how the Chiefs fare next season with all the changes in that division.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I actually, looking at it, believe that this is going to be a tougher. Everyone says every year, "Oh, the AFC West is the best division," and I never fully believe it. Right? Like I never fully believe it. I do believe in Jim Harbaugh. I 1,000% believe in Jim Harbaugh, and I believe that Antonio Pierce has a group of individuals that believe in what the Raiders are trying to do. Whether that leads to them making the playoffs, who knows? But clearly, in that second game this year, Brad, they got under the Chiefs' skin. Yeah. I think it's going to be a more competitive group. But the Broncos, it's still going to be the flip of a coin. Who are you going to get if Russell Wilson's gone? Who's going into Denver? We'll find out. It should be fun to watch. I think that's all we got. That's all we got, guys. Any last closing remarks, thoughts, concerns?
Adam Schefter just reported, just so funny that you just brought up, Chip Kelly is a potential candidate for the Commanders' offensive coordinator job.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Talk about spicy.
Yeah. Maybe on Monday, that'll be a topic we can lead off with if it gets done.
I want to have a Commander's pulse check.
Yeah.
For fans. How are we feeling about all of this?
They went from wanting Ben Johnson or Mike McDonald to getting Dan Quinn and Chip Kelly. Potentially Chip Kelly.
I'm actually surprised that Chip Kelly would take a coordinator position. We were talking before the show that because I was just fantasizing about what it would look like if Mike Vrabel was a DC for the Ravens. Because it would just be fun. It would be a fun story. But to see Chip Kelly, former head coach, now taking an OC position, I don't know. It seems like it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah. That would also obviously take out Eric Bieniemy and would potentially mean Eric Bieniemy wouldn't have a job in the NFL. I mean, I'd assume someone would pick him up.
I think the Saints will have an opening in offense, so maybe he goes there. I don't know.
I mean,
he was a hot name.
Yeah, I never thought in a million years that Mike Vrabel wouldn't have a job next year.
But yeah, there's a lot of guys that a year and a half ago, if you would have told me that potentially Bieniemy, Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, and Mike Vrabel all would not be a head coach next year, that would be, I guess Bieniemy anywhere, I'd be like, what are you talking about? It's crazy.
Right.
It's wild. And I guess maybe that's the next show we'll have to dive into just the conversation of, like you just mentioned, is Bill Belichick still going to coach Tom Brady? Sure think so. And that was something he talked about, the fire still in him. But what's going to happen? Because are they just going to sit out a year and let the chips fall where they may in 2025? So, guys, that's all we have for the show. We touched on a lot of different things. And I think that it was great. If you guys are new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. We did have ESPN Mina Kimes on earlier to continue to break Zach's heart about Mike McDonald leaving. We talked about the Orioles. We talked about Commanders hiring Dan Quinn. So much more. We are on Spotify and Apple, by the way. I had some questions about that. We are expanding on the podcast platform, so you can listen to this on the audio version on Spotify and Apple. We have a Discord channel, which is in the comments. Come join us there and have some conversations. You have questions directly for us, we will get back to you right then and there. We're building something that's fun. And we will be back on Monday to talk more about whatever the hell is going on here. I'm sure we'll have some more Orioles conversations, and there will be something happening in the world of sports because the world never stops moving. So for Kevin, Zach, Brad, and myself, thank you for tuning into the Ryan Ripken Show. We will see you next week. And remember, as always, have a day, have a night, and have a weekend. See you guys.
Sip and
And-
smile. Peace.
Rocco.
Oh, and Rocco's gone.
Yeah.